What's up, everybody? Hanging out at twitch.tv/Lawler with our lovely chat. Everybody in chat, do me a favor, say hello to the YouTube frogs that are watching this on that platform of their choice. Either way, you guys, we're kind of in a weird situation. It's Wednesday, my dudes. And the difficulty is I'm actually headed to Boston for PAX East this weekend, where I'll be working at the Intel booth. Because of that, we had to record a Q&A video a little bit earlier than normal. So for those that were looking forward to joining this week, I apologize, but we're going to do what we always do. We're going to take questions from both the YouTube channel in the comments, the ones that you guys post that are towards the top, as well as alternate with the ones from chat. And if you guys ever want to be involved in these videos, easy ways to do it are, like I mentioned, leave a comment down below. Make sure if you see one you like it, give it a thumbs up, or come over to the Twitch channel where we stream every day but Tuesday and Sunday, unless I got something going on where I got to travel or something to that extent, and we can't. But with that said, let's jump over to the YouTube comments and see what we have. First question is going to come from Hado's Place, who's actually in chat right now. Says, hey Lawler, at Worlds, if both MENA teams make it to top 16 and say perhaps only 4 NA and EU teams make it to top 16, do you see Psyonix removing auto-qual spots from major regions and adding more for another MENA slot or SSA slot based on the results of Worlds? Yes, and 1000%. They've said this before, and this is just common practice. We do not have experience and exposure to the minor regions as much as we should. And because of that, Psyonix has to be willing to change and make adjustments based upon the hard facts and evidence of this is the first season we've seen these additional regions come in, and if they do outperform significantly other regions, then we should probably allocate more to that region. So it is a lot of possible unwanted pressure, but not only are you representing yourself and trying to perform well, but you are also trying to outweigh the performance of, like, you're carrying your region straight up. Like, you are doing everything in your power to make sure that your region gets additional advantages, because that's a big deal. The difference between having 5 spots versus 2 versus 1 is massive. Like, imagine if MENA got to send 2 teams instead of just 1, or you see an OCE where, and even South America, where primarily South America in their very last regional for winter split, it came down to the grand finals. Like, that was the difference between who went and who didn't. So when you have a little bit more spots available, you do get a little bit more leniency on your performance. You can have bigger swings where, you know, you may bump out as like V1 took 12th in one of the regionals, but because they won another one and had a top 6 performance in the other, I think it was top 6, top 4, that gives that ability. But if you have a 12th place spot in one of the regionals in like South America or OCE, you're pretty much out of the running unless you win the other 2. So it is a big deal, and they will make adjustments. They have to make adjustments. It's the only way they could do it. So stuff like that, obviously of massive importance. Next question comes from it's Mason. It says, do you expect more out of Dignitas this season? Initial expectations of Dignitas were actually pretty timid. I knew the team had a lot of potential to be good just because of who is on that roster, how they all kind of gel with each other, and we did get an initial like look at them when it came to the We Play Invitational at the very beginning of the season. As they then started to play together, you saw how much potential they really had, and that they were still trying to identify who and what they were going to look like, to the point now where it feels like there is a bit of a roadblock. They still perform quite well, although through the lower bracket last split, and then they get to the major and they again fall out a little bit quickly, and that is not where they want to be. So now they are having that reality check of, hey, we may need some exterior help. We feel comfortable with what we've accomplished, but we need to be better. Let's go and try to find let's go find a coach. Let's go put out a job offer and see if we can find somebody that fits the role that we'd like. So my expectations of Dignitas is, I think there is still so much more. It feels like Queso is doing what Dignitas wishes they were doing. And Dignitas has that potential to get there as well. So expectation wise, I do expect a lot of them, and I do think their results could be better, but they're also still performing quite well. Like, they're a top 3 team in the region. They're only behind Queso and BDS to my knowledge, so top 3 in EU is pretty good considering how much depth that region does have. So I do have higher expectations, but I do also think that they're performing pretty well. Hey Lawler, how much of an advantage do you think NA will have when it comes to playing Worlds in their region, and do you think it will alternate between NA and EU? We're going to tackle the second question first. alternation is obviously a hope. You always want to make sure that you, as a organization, or in this case for Rocket League esports staff, they want to make sure that they cater to both regions anytime they can. Obviously, minor regions kind of get shafted on that, but they got to find ways to make it easier for travel. They got to make sure the most fans show up. They got to be able to fill seats, sell tickets, etc. And primarily, the largest fan bases are in NA and EU in a very big generalization. With that in mind, there is also the complications of travel and stuff like that, which is surprising that they're still doing it in North America as much, considering how much of a pain in the butt visa stuff and travel restrictions have been. But there's a lot of factors that go into it, and I'll try to explain this too in a future video. We're going to be talking about like future land locations and some of the limitations or some of the complications that come with that, and like what factors go into choosing a land location. So look forward to that video in the future. But that's a lot of prep has to go into that one to make sure that it works out, so it gets presented in a way that you guys enjoy. So don't worry, that's coming. I'll have more details on that in the future, but there is definitely an advantage. Lack of jet lag, being able to boot camp and travel and all that stuff is significantly easier. And obviously the fan bases, you saw how different and how skewed it was, where if you're an NA team, you are getting applauded and cheered for like crazy, while over in Europe, both teams usually get a little bit of love. And that's not to say that EU isn't biased too. I remember like everybody talks about how great the crowd is in London in season 5, but without a doubt, that crowd was heavily biased towards Dignitas, and rightfully so. It is their home region crowd, and there's nothing wrong with that. The difference though is you are starting to see overall, although it's not really being put across well to the people watching at home, people are cheering for good goals, good saves. Like, people are cheering for Rocket League. And then they obviously have their biases towards certain players, certain teams. So is an advantage. I think that's more so on the players themselves. I do think overall, yes, there is an advantage of it being an NA for NA teams, without a doubt. But it may not be as skewed as heavily as people may think. It is more of a, how good is that player's mental, which is something that hopefully players, coaches, teammates and stuff all help with. So it is an advantage, but not as much as you may think. Plasma is asking me an impossible question. With the last trade window of the season closed, which teams do you think have the best chance to win Worlds? That is an impossible question, because the difficulty is, one, there's a bunch of new rosters, so that's part of it. You're also seeing different formats being implemented. I don't know how teams are going to look 4 months from now, or 3 months from now, whatever it is. Yeah, 4 months from now. In August, when we get to the World Championship, like, who's going to be the best team at that point? I have no idea. I think you can obviously look at the top teams in the standings and be like, yes, these teams have been the most consistent. They obviously have the biggest favor, but I think upset potential is higher than it's ever been. Competition is better than it's ever been. And we saw that showcased with the 16 strongest teams going and playing in the Winter Major. You're going to continue to see that evolution as these rosters change and try to hurdle over each other. NA kind of taking all of their team and all their talent and throwing it towards the top. You're going to see EU now doing that too, with Seiko going to BDS and all these other types of things. It's going to continue to be that evolution of the meta, as well as the teams trying to make adjustments so they can continue to stay at the top. So pick any of the top tier teams, honestly. I know it's a kind of a cop-out answer, but you can literally take any of the top teams right now, go into any region, find top 2, top 3. Those are your arguably best chances to win it all. So, and even with that said, it's a coin flip sometimes. It really is. And who knows how the wild card into World Championship's going to play. Is it beneficial for teams to have that warm up in the wild card as compared to automatically just being a top 8 team and waiting for promotion relegation stuff? Like, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it sounds like a generic answer, but straight up, man. Look at the standings, find the top performing teams. Those are the best chance. What crossovers would you like to appear in Rocket League when Psyonix have got the Unreal Engine 5 moves sorted? I know we already have Fast and Furious in DC, so do you think we could see other franchises? If it isn't cars, would you be interested in theme maps? Yeah, we got to see like theme maps, obviously, with the Hot Wheels thing, but the maps are still just a standard map. It doesn't really change the game in any capacity. And I think that's what I'm excited for. If Unreal Engine 5 ends up being the implementation that I hope it is, where you do get more custom options and stuff like that, I'm hoping we get more creative like game modes and special events and things that are unique, and they go outside of just the endemic, we are car soccer, we partner with car brand, we make new car. I would love to see something unique outside of that. Obviously, that is a very cool thing that they can do, where they bring in, a Lamborghini or a Batmobile or whatever it may be. But I would like to see them experiment outside of that. You saw like Fortnite, for example, when they brought in Marvel characters, brand new game mode with Thanos. You saw different skills and abilities and items with like the web slingers from Spider-Man. Like, it completely changes the way the game is played. That kind of stuff is super impactful and is stuff that I hope to see in the future once it becomes a little bit easier to implement. So that stuff is what I really, really want with future partnerships and future sponsorships, assuming it's possible. Plasma asked this one as well, and I think it's important, and so did a couple other people in chat. This one has been a pretty common topic. What is my opinion on a loan, and what is a loan going on with Archie? More details on that will be dropping in a video on Tuesday for everybody who's watching this video. But in Europe, one of the players is on loan from another organization, which hasn't happened in the RLCS before. It happens in other esports and traditional sports, but in the RLCS, it is a very new thing. Player from one team, although still signed to that team, is being loaned and is allowed to play on a different team. So this team is saying, hey, star player, go here for a replacement for somebody else, and then we're going to find somebody else to fill that gap. And that cost is being compensated for. So this team no longer has to pay for this person and their salary, even though they're still associated to the organization. So in this circumstance, Semper is loaning a player to Endpoint. Endpoint is paying for Semper's player. Semper no longer has that cost associated to it, but is still getting the benefit of knowing that this player is on our roster. So after the season is done, player is still legally signed to the old roster. They can rebuild, determine what they want to do there, possibly a buyout. And it feels more so, and I wish I knew the intentions of the player. The player in particular is Archie, is wondering if it is seeing if the grass is greener elsewhere or what the circumstance is. But it is fairly new to the Rocket League esports scene of seeing how it's going to play out. But I think it is more so just trying to make the best of a circumstance that is not ideal. Endpoint losing Seiko kind of sucks. Archie's a pretty good player. Semper is willing to cut their losses possibly. Like there's some very interesting things there. So we'll be interested to see how that one plays out, not only for performance reasons, but also just like what the long term is going to look like for Semper as well as Endpoint. I'm curious to see how it plays out. But that's like 8 months from now problem. So we'll see what happens. Do you think this G2 team with Atomic is going to be a bigger franchise team than when they had Rizzo? No, because Rizzo was such a strong personality. And that's not to discount anybody currently on the team, but Rizzo is a very unique circumstance where you can use him in more than just he's a pro player. You can use him in content pieces. You can use him to stream more and all. Like he is a public figure, not just a pro. And nothing against Atomic, Chicago, or JNaps. They're not really out there. Chicago, I would say, does a bit more with his YouTube channel and stuff, but JNaps and Atomic are pretty quiet people. They keep to themselves. So part of the reason why G2 was such a big name was one, because of Kronovi and Rizzo. 100% from Vlokin's charisma level was maxed out. Like, spec hard into charisma. I don't know if you can make a bigger franchise after going from Kronovi and Rizzo. It's pretty tough to do. Success-wise, if you want to talk about, like, Dynasty, I mean, they actually won a major. Right now, they're already tied. It's been one split with Atomic, and they've won just as much as they ever did with the other two, which was E-League. So potential to be more successful, be more prolific, have more respect put on the roster itself. Yeah. But when it comes to being a bigger franchise team or a bigger name or more popular, probably not. Probably not. Any collaboration videos coming soon? There is a couple people that I have talked with behind the scenes after going to the Winter Split Major. A lot of content creators I discussed and had conversations with, and some ideas and behind the scene meetings that I have had. But if you guys in particular, anybody watching this video, anybody in chat, have recommendations of people I should collab with, let me know down in the comments below. Also, let me know who and what. Ideas are crucial. It's cool to be like, hey, you and this person should work together, but what is it you would like us to work together on? Because that's always the hardest part. So if we can kind of cater to that, let us know. This is a very good casual question. Colby says, hey, Lawler, I was wondering what makes players want to be represented by an org. What makes it worth being represented? Is it better pay? Also, what makes it worth it for to even start getting into the scene? I think this is supposed to be orgs and it got autocorrected. Do they take money from winnings, or is it a sponsor that is being an org worth it? Sorry for a long one. So this has a lot of concepts to it. So the number one thing, what makes players want to be represented by an org? money. Right now, if you are not signed by an organization, you are fending for yourself. You have no backing financially, and unless you are a content creator that can support yourself, the only money you are surviving off of is the tournament winnings. But by signing with an organization, you are representing a brand, and therefore they are paying you a salary to do so, which is security. You know, it's guaranteed money. Win or loss, it's security. So that's a lot of it. And it's also good to be part of a team and feel like you're representing and being part of this bigger thing. They also help compensate for flights and help potentially with growth, and they use their own branding. So for example, if I'm an organization like Cloud9, branding, fans, I mean, they have teams associated to other esports, and those fans may trickle over and become fans of you as well because they're fans of the org, not just the game. Like, there's a lot of benefits that way. A lot of it though does have to do with pay. It allows you to get paid. You work hard, you become one of the best, get compensated for it, just like a professional. Professionals are hoping to get signed by a professional team so they can earn a big salary. As for organizations, it's the same thing. It is a marketing tool. Esports in general is the way to market and showcase your own branding. So right now, if you look at the RLCS, most broadcasts pull at minimum about 100,000 concurrent. As for unique viewers, it's a little bit less than like a Major League Baseball game. So as a brand, by me paying for an organization or a team that's really good, I have to pay more, but it also allows them to be shown on broadcast more frequently to these people that are going to potentially buy our merch, support our team, root for us, whatever it may be. You may see in the future, no longer is this a Green Bay Packers family. This is a Cloud9, a V1, a TSM household. It's going to be different. It's going to be different. So trying to market to that, and those organizations make money from, some do take prize pools. It depends on what it is and how the contract works out. But a lot of it is sponsorships. By said pro player rocking our jersey on stage, that jersey also is sponsored and has sponsors of X, X, and X brand. And those brands allocate money for that sponsorship. The more prolific the organization, the more valuable those spots are. And that changes quite a bit depending on the circumstance. So hopefully that explains very, very basics of why a pro wants to be signed and the benefits to signing a pro. Hopefully that goes hand in hand. Last but not least, Tarsim in chat says, can you explain a little bit about map selection for regionals and majors? Seems like we have the same 7 maps each event, and while I'm sure they are chosen by players in mind, having wider rotation of maps per event could be an easy way to make it feel more unique. I do agree. I do think changing map rotation more frequently would be kind of cool, but those maps in those rotations are done very specifically for a reason. There are certain maps that obviously do have frame rate issues or certain issues visually or certain things that the players don't like. So that's part of it. The other side of it too is like some have been removed from the rotation because they're hard to cast on. Like as great as Beckwith Park is, there's the ambient noise is super boring and it just completely kills any sort of excitement in that game. So there's certain things like that they decide on. Champions Field is always game 7. You know, it's the deciding match, so it's always on the like big field with all the pro banners and stuff on it. So certain requirements like that, but the whole decision of who and what goes into that rotation, it's specific, but I do think they could probably change it up a little bit. But if they do end up changing it up, I think they have to communicate with the players, the coaches and stuff and be like, hey, what matches should we throw into the pool, and just have a selection. But they're going to dedicate to that. I think they should do it split to split. So split for fall, regional 1, 2, 3, and the major is all the same maps. Winter, all the same maps. Spring, all the same maps. I think that stuff is kind of where they would have to go about it. So I do agree that they could move it up, but a lot of the time is due to performance. Like Aquadome back in the day had to be removed because it was awful. Certain maps are too bright. Performance issues on like Sandy Shores and stuff like that. Those types of things that some people don't always recognize are a big factor with it. But with that said, that is going to do it for today's Q&A video. If you guys do have any additional questions that you would like for next week, let me know in the comments down below, or stop by the streams, twitch.tv/Lawler, where we try to record these every single week live with you guys. And as I mentioned, if you guys would like to see me collab with somebody, certain things you would like to see us work together on, let me know who, as well as the idea that you have. Let me know in the comments down below, whether it be a certain guest for Rocket Talk, and hopefully I can make it happen, or something else, maybe a completely different situation. Let me know. But that's going to do it for me. Make sure you guys hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you next week. Peace.